Hey guys, what's going on? Time for another Patreon exclusive episode of Digital Deep Dive. Today I'm sitting down with one of my absolute best friends I've made in professional wrestling so far, Kid Dynamite, Alix Vanna. We talk about our amazing matches we've had, our dynamic chemistry, our stories that we've had interweaving throughout our entire careers, as well as going to All Out in Chicago and so much more. So stay tuned, because it's coming up after this. All right, guys, so I am here with one of my absolute favorite guys I've ever met through pro wrestling. I wish we could hang out so much more because we literally would be the best of friends, I feel, gathering together all the time to talk about wrestling. But ladies and gentlemen, Kid Dynamite, Alix Vanna. Alix, it's weird calling you Alix even. It's been so long since being together in a wrestling capacity.
It's honestly been so long.
Yeah, it has. Because when was the last show you did? That it was the golden ticket cash-in, right?
May 2019.
Wow. Yeah,
I know.
forget that, man. It's my last show was the February, right before things shut down. But yeah, man, it's been a really long time for you.
Yeah, I guess that was the last show because I stopped in because that was the same weekend that Raw was on.
In Winnipeg, yeah, you're right, 100%. Yeah. Yeesh.
I was there for the last show too.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit before we started filming this. Before we dive into your feelings right now about wrestling, I want to know the origin story of how you became a fan, what you were watching, and what got you to training.
I think honestly on our road trip we did talk about this. I'm going to bring it up again. I just remember seeing a clip on TV and it was Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid on Monday Night Raw.
Nice.
And I just remember seeing somebody get whipped into the rail on the outside. And I think it was Kid took the bump into the rail. And I was like, what is this madness? And from that moment, we found out our local video store had tons of WrestleMania videos. So it all started from there, just watching a guy take a whip into a steel guardrail.
It's weird. I always say it's the WrestleMania 6 poster hooked me, but my earliest memory for some weird reason is the model Rick Martel stroking Tatanka's feather while cutting a promo, and I was so intrigued with that of all things. But so you obviously watched the rest growing up, but you weren't just a WWF fan, I'm sure. You were watching what else?
It was kind of that's all we had access to because I don't even think we had the channel that had TNT with WCW until later on. I think it was around 97, late 97, where we actually started to get to watch WCW. And I became familiar with WCW, but I was always a WWF fanboy. Shawn Michaels was my man. And I was that's my guy. That was my childhood hero.
Right on. Yeah.
That I've never met him.
But you were a big ECW guy, or did that come much later?
Yeah, well, ECW was so unavailable. You know what I mean? I didn't have a high-end computer where I could find shows on the internet or tape trading. I wasn't old enough for that. I would have only been 8 years old when I started watching ECW. It was when they got their TV deal with TNN, right, at the time?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You were sticking around for Rollerball after that? Or?
Yeah. Well, actually, I think we were watching Rollerball first, and then we realized in the TV guide, it said ECW up next. And I was like, ECW? And then I just remember the first episode we watched was Spike Dudley coming out with he had a full leg brace and he was limping out, and Rhino came out and beat the shit out of him. And he gave him a pile driver through a table, and I was like, they don't do this on the other TV.
Right.
This is wild. And it seems so reality. You couldn't tell if it was wrestling or just people fighting. As a kid, you still think wrestling is 100% real. Right, but they definitely pushed the boundaries of real and fiction.
Right. I was lucky because the first one I caught, they were replaying Rob Van Dam, Jerry Lynn match from a pay-per-view. I don't know the ECW history enough to know the pay-per-view or anything. I'm sure you might.
Pretty sure it's Living Dangerously 98.
Probably.
Yeah.
That was wow, what is this stuff? So I knew of Rob Van Dam. So when he popped up in WWE, it was oh, wow, there he is,
I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kept watching, big fan growing up. I'm sure you loved all my favorites. Of course, we talked about Shawn Michaels, but you, for training, decided to make the big commitment, and you drove to Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and got trained by Lance Storm. Talk about that experience a little bit.
It was kind of like that's the only option in your head if you're Canadian, really. Like, it's either that or the lesser known Scott D'Amore School up in Ontario in Windsor. So I thought to myself, what's the easiest move? And I knew at this point, I've always wanted to do it as a kid. And I know nobody ever takes like risks in their life to like, I want to pursue my dream. And I just went through like a huge falling out in life. And I just like broke up with my long-term girlfriend. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to prove everybody I can do it. And I was this skinny 165-pound soaking wet kid trying to gain
that was
mass.
A heavyweight to me back when I started.
And, I always knew Lance had a school. I think the first time I saw it was like on Much TV because they were like, yeah, we're going to go train with Lance Storm. And I was like, what? Lance Storm has a school? So, because everybody thinks school, Calgary, Hearts. They always think, oh, you went to the Heart School. And I'm like, no, I went to Lance Storm School. And I was a big fan of Lance. Yeah, I know. So I was always a big fan of Lance, even from ECW, moving on to WCW, where I got more exposure of him. And I always just thought, like, I want to be serious for a moment. And, like, it was such a good gimmick for being Canadian. Yeah. I was like, this is the best. And he was legit one of the best. I think Lance Storm is still one of the top, I'd say, 10 technical wrestlers from Canada, I would say.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, honestly, if you want to get into the business, you're going to want to learn from somebody who you believe is the best. And that's what I did.
And, you could easily see it, too, when you came back. I was the first guy to book you, just thinking about that right now.
I know, you stole my Facebook profile picture.
Used it for the graphics. But, we'd been in touch a little bit because you went to early PCW show that came around your town. So I remember kind of lightly keeping in touch over the years. And you said you were getting interested in training and stuff. So I always kept my eye on you. But I remember even your first match, like just your mechanics, the basics, everything, fundamentals. You're very marketable right away. It's just as this like young kid, you had a good vision for yourself of like how you wanted to portray yourself. I feel like you were many steps ahead of a lot of people I'd seen come in at the time.
And that has a lot to do with our training, because even in school, he taught character development. He gave us promo lessons, which I am still the worst promo in history. I am the worst.
You're not, but I understand being your own worst critic. Absolutely.
Anyways, yeah. So he did teach us like what goes into a good character and what will get you over. We literally would just sit there in the middle of the ring. I know you're spending like $65 for those 3 hours to listen to Lance Storm talk, but they were very well worth it. Like those hours where he just talked like importance of making yourself stand out,
right?
And being able to get booked by being different. It was definitely a good lesson that I don't think many classes or schools would teach.
For sure. I just lost the light, but I got a funny Lance Storm story, actually. I'll get some light going here in a second. But, I went to a seminar. I was just talking about that seminar, actually, with James Beaver. And Lance Storm decided to pop by because it was in Edmonton, Alberta, not too far away from Calgary. And we were working absolute strangers. We'd never met before. We don't know their moveset, and they wanted to just put on like a 3-minute TV match. And Lance Storm would critique it afterwards. We're super young kids just getting started out. And you know me with my lack of training background, kind of a nervous wreck going into it. But I worked a kid about my size. And right before our match, somebody was working the leg the whole match. And they weren't communicating very well, and it kind of got sloppy at the end. So Lance just kind of stood up and said, guys, I don't want to see anybody work the leg anymore before we go into any more of these matches. I'm up next. And if you've ever watched the Jay Walker match, especially with me as a heel, you know that I like to work the leg. I wasn't going to stray from path and look stupid, but I also was worried about what Lance Storm was going to think about this cocky kid not taking his advice. Worked the match, worked this kid's leg the entire match to build up to this finish. We did an amazing cross body block, got a big pop from the audience, and I went to him immediately as soon as the match was over. Didn't wait for any feedback. I just rolled out of the ring and I said, "I am so sorry, but that is what I was trained to do. This is kind of my moveset." He was a pretty good. He took it pretty good. He had some good advice after that. But man, yeah, like for a first experience, I did not do too well. I'm just gonna turn on the big lights. My lights are dead.
No worries. Technical issues. Oh yeah. No.
Let's expose the background.
You just exposed pro wrestling.
Breaking kayfabe. All right. So yeah, before you were Alix Vanna, you went by the name of Abel Wolf. What went into the plans for that?
I don't know. You know, I really like the American Wolves, and maybe I was just being a mark, and I really kind of realized that later on. And but like, I honestly don't even know how I came up with the name. I think Abel's a cool name. It still is a cool name. I would name my kid Abel. But as for the wolf part, I don't know. I was probably going to come up with like fur or something and like teeth. I don't know.
Do you remember the theme song I made for you for NXW for that? Like with the big wolf out. You know what? It was a great name though. Yeah. No, it was a great name. It was a great little gimmick. But so why the switch to Alix Vanna? Just because you wanted to get away from that?
You know, I did have another break in the business. This came around. I don't even know why I took a break this time. Honestly, I just love taking breaks. But like, I knew that we were gonna get like repackaged. I knew the company was having some shift in the booking at that time, and they were like, "We're gonna put you and Jackie Lee out there in the main event. People haven't seen you in a while. They're gonna expect something big out of you." So I teased the name change on Facebook and all that, and then it just came with like the heel attitude. And where I got Alix Vanna, once again, I have no idea. I looked up the top most popular Russian names, and Alex came up a lot, like over and over again. I was like, okay, so Alexander, Alex, but I think there was already a couple Alexanders at the time. Like there was Alexander Prime and HIW.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to step on his toes. So I just went with Alex. And then Vanna, I don't know. There's a band named Vanna, a hardcore band. And I always see their logo everywhere. And I was like, I like their music. You know, Vanna's not a bad name. AV, those are good initials. I always think of wrestling names with initials. Yeah. I always think of Ric Flair on the tights, the RF. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I was thinking AV's pretty cool.
Throw up the hand symbol, man. You used to do it all the AV. Yeah, man. Like it was a thing. I'm glad like you think about that stuff. There's a lot of people who don't take the time to do just the littlest things like that. That's something that always stood out with you. I loved it. Like the Alix Vanna name change and everything. At first, like when you heard it, it's like, but like once you like came out the gear and everything, and you kept coming up with the new stuff, it was like, yeah, man, like you totally own that. That was you, and easily like very believable.
If there was one thing I was proud of was just how well they accepted the change.
Yes.
The crowd, because they already knew me as lighthearted Abel Wolf running around doing babyface stuff. But this was a whole different side because I don't think I ever worked heel until that moment.
Right.
And nobody really knew if I could. And I said I really enjoyed it when I was in training. And most of my matches I was based as a heel. I just didn't look like one because I look like this. I was a little bit more cleaner shaven then, but yeah, so just being able to take control and be kind of like the prick, cocky, arrogant, like young buck in the biz. I really enjoyed it, and I found myself a lot more comfortable as a heel. And to be honest, I don't think I even reverted back to a face.
I'm trying to think of a moment, Noah, like ever since you adopted that new name, it's been heel all the way. Man, I could go into so much about like heel work. Like, I don't know if you remember me as a heel in PCW, but like, it's nice. Like, it just feels right sometimes, eh? And right now, I'm enjoying the challenge of being a babyface and doing something different just because I did have a decent heel run. But yeah, there's just something special about being the bad guy and getting the chance to really play around with the character without worrying about like looking stupid or not being accepted by the audience. Like you just have like that. Yeah, there's just like something to being a heel that just makes life so much easier out there.
Well, it is, because you don't have to watch your mouth. You can get in people's faces. Like, it's really fun in general. I think it is. It's hilarious. I love when people get in my face and I just flip them off or whatever I do, or give them this right to their face, and they just like, it's hilarious. And it's also, from a worker standpoint, like busting the kayfabe wall, you're in a lot more control, and you dictate the pace of the match, truly. And I found that made my matches a lot better when I had freedom control, like to like start planning things a lot more and not planning my own little spots or whatever. It was just a lot easier, and I had a lot of great matches as a heel. Me and you have had a lot of great matches.
Yeah, I mean, we'll jump into that right now, I guess. We've probably shared the ring together for like 10 hours total between our matches. We've put in a lot of time over the years, and I don't think we've ever had a bad match that, I mean, you might have a different opinion. What is it about us that clicks so well, you find?
It would be, we definitely have like a similar like size and shape, and it almost looks like a yin and a yang when we work.
I like that,
because we're like a yin to the yang. But I always found like your creativity and your willingness to just like put in 100% effort in everything we did, and just the way you maintain yourself in character, it made this go way further than it ever could have. If you were just somebody that, and if I was just somebody that didn't really care about being the top heel or being the top face, it wouldn't have worked.
No, 100%. I like that. Yeah. You too. I agree. Like the creativity side, your character as well is just so fleshed out. When you come out, you believe what you're seeing when you come out, and you really look like a star out there. And you're always full of fresh ideas too to bring to the match. You like such a different style of wrestling than me, but yet grew up on the same stuff. That I think you add more to my matches by bringing just some different moves and different sequences and stuff that really help elevate some of the tension in the match. I very much agree with the yin and yang thing. I think that's a great comparison to make. It doesn't hurt when we have matching black leather tights in a rumble and we're the final two guys out there. But
we should have did the whole doink spot. We should have did the whole.
We should have. I was with Leo actually. Man, it's probably been a month now, but we were just talking about like how I think we need to start having more fun when we're out there, like in the ring. It's always fun to like be serious, especially when you're in those top spots. But man, just to like cut loose a little bit and enjoy some of the time that we have out there, rather than putting all the pressure in the world to deliver these knockout performances that nobody gets to see.
And being with Leo and David in the Gentlemen's Club, they really brought a lot of that out of me. The goofiness, the funniness. They added almost like a different, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like a different attribute to my character, the comedy. And they were like, you're funny. You can do it. Like, you can pull it off. And just the whole love triangle. Are they my brothers? Are they my lovers? What are they? I don't know what they were spewing. If you ever look back at the promos, which I don't even know if we can, but they constantly spew their own storyline that was not talked about. It was not rehearsed. They just threw these things out there, and they're like, "We love you. We're gonna give you a kiss on the cheek, and we're gonna tell you we love you," and all this stuff. I was like, "Okay, whatever." The crowd loves that. The crowd loves that stuff. PCW has to be hands down one of the weirdest, craziest, diehard group of fans ever. Because there's guys that have come from like Saskatchewan and Alberta, and they're like, we want to wrestle in PCW because we want to see what it's like. And I was like, well, prepare to get made fun of by everyone about everything about you.
But at the same time, like, they're so accepting to, like, it really is this weird dynamic with the audience. Like, they come for a good time and they come to kind of poke fun, but they are absolutely invested in a lot of us because they've just watched us kind of grow up, I guess, over the years. There's that element too to it, but it's such like this awesome inclusive group, and it makes for when there's a good number of people there, it makes for a really wild night, and it feels like there's 1,000 people in that building.
I completely agree. Like it feels like there's, like you said, at least like 1,000 people, where in reality it's about 300. But
right.
But just the level of noise, and it's such a smaller room, a smaller venue, and it just captures all the noise. You can hear the PCW or that was awesome. I don't even know if they've ever chanted that, but it's more like S his D, which is their favorite chant ever.
Yeah.
Or they hated my hair. I don't know why they've never made fun of your bangs, but they just hate my hair.
Yeah, and my hair was pretty brutal near the end too. It was getting stupid long, and it wasn't even looking good. Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of AFI 2004.
Right. Yeah. Like it's not even. I don't even know what I was looking for, but like it's playing around, and experimenting with stuff to see what works and what looks good, and that it's gone now. It's not coming back.
I know. I've recently kind of trimmed it up too, so it's not as bad of a bang anymore. And I was even spiking it up for a while, but God, do I hate my hair.
Going back to our matches, like what are some of the favorite match types, and then some of your favorite memories too from our matches?
You know, almost every first that I've had in a match was with you. First ladder match.
Right.
First Ironman match.
And second Ironman match. Do you remember that? No, you don't remember that, do you? So we did the 1 hour one, but there was also at the school, you might remember, we did a 30-minute Ironman. But we also, because we had such a small crew, we had to roll that into a tag team match. So we were in the ring for a good 45, 50 minutes anyways.
I totally remember that. And didn't we end up having to team together?
No, that was... You might be thinking of one of the noir bar shows that we did.
Oh, right. My first noir match. Me and Full Suit, you know what I mean? And that was just coming off of... I think I was coming off injury because I had a really bad concussion from after the AJ Styles match.
Right.
Yeah. So after that Primo show with me, Mentalo, Shadow, and AJ Styles, there was a bump I took off the apron where Mentalo did the old sweep the legs, take the bump. I didn't take the bump on the apron. I took the bump on the floor, which the floor had no mats, and I'm pretty sure it was like a hardwood floor. And I just remember being like so loopy, but I knew I had to get up to the top rope for the double drop kick, and I was like, I can't blow this. This is the biggest opportunity I've ever had. So, I just remember getting to the back, and I was just kind of like sick to my stomach because I was first eliminated in the 4-way. And just remember just watching it over through the big window upstairs, and I was like, oh, I'm so messed up. But man, was it worth it.
You'll always have that memory for sure, yeah.
I'm going to go back to the question you actually asked me.
No, go ahead.
My favorite match that we had? Oh, probably the ladder match was really fun because we told a pretty good story. And some of the spots were great, I thought, to be honest.
What was the frog splash?
Oh, yeah, over the ladder that was laid across 2 chairs. That's where I broke my toes.
Oh, right. I totally forgot about that.
Because you're up higher, you're elevated from the ladder.
Right.
And when you're coming down, usually you expect your feet to be kind of bent out. Yeah. But, like, when you fall down, it's like, as soon as I hit the ladder, my feet went toes into the mat. Right. And I was like... You were like, why are you groaning and moaning? I was like, oh, I broke my toes, I swear.
Yeah, we've definitely beat the hell out of each other. The Ironman match, man, like 60 minutes, and there wasn't really a whole lot planned. We had a car trip, basically, like a 1.5 hour car trip to kind of plan this match because we just finished working a show in the afternoon, and here we got to go set up a ring and basically go and wrestle for an hour out there. Were you happy with that match? Do you feel like you set out to? Were you proud with it? Like,
we didn't wear the crowd out because we did enough stuff in between, like the holds, and told a good story of where we were going towards each fall and who was going for what. That we built up on that story. I I remember a couple incidents looking up at the clock and being like, oh man, it's a real clock. It's not fast.
Right,
and,
it's not gimmicked, yeah.
And I seen AJ Sanchez in the booth, and he was smiling because he seen me looking at the clock and thinking he's never going to make an hour. And I was like, I really don't think we're going to make an hour. I think I'm going to die of exhaustion. There was one spot where it was just on the fly. I went for a suplex on you in the middle of the ring, and I just told you crotch me on the ring, the turnbuckle, the top turnbuckle. And the way we did it, we don't have buckle covers.
No.
We just have the bare buckle. And the turnbuckle jammed me so hard in my thigh. It created like contusions in my leg. And it was like a couple days later, I went home and I was feeling my leg and I was like, oh, it feels like there's like a blood clot in my leg. So I actually went to the doctor and showed him. He's like, it's just a contusion. It's just damaged tissue. But I just remember it being so welted and so painful. And I think it was only like halfway through the match.
Right.
But I really did love the finish of the match. It was amazing. You can tell the story.
Yeah, I wish we had that one on film. That would have been amazing to watch back over time. I was super proud of that. For like as little as we did plan, we really just understand each other so well in the story that we told that last 10, 15 minutes, it all escalated to that point, and the crowd was super hot for like everything at the end. Like it's I don't know. It's weird. Like I'm not the most in shape wrestler at all, but like going an hour, as exhausting as it feels, like I easily could have kept going. You know, it was just so much fun to tell that story and have that time to tell. And I think that's one of the biggest assets of like me and you working on and having these like NXW shows on the side that helped make us more successful in PCW was all that extra time we had to work on our in-ring, work on our characters, work on our promos. It really just helped round us out a lot quicker than 10 or 15 minutes would have done in Winnipeg.
It was really almost like the developmental program for PCW.
But like us developing ourselves too at the same time. It was really weird, but it worked.
Yeah, it definitely helped us get ourselves over and figure out like our move sets and who we are in the ring and our limitations. Because when you go out in front of PCW, this is an established company, Kenny Omega's home promotion, people expect big things out of newcomers. And when they don't live up to the hype, they let you know it.
Absolutely.
They let you know it.
Especially coming in like so new, like that is just so much pressure to deliver for that kind of audience. It's so different versus any sort of all ages show. Before you go, I want to talk about Chicago. You were amazing in scooping up those tickets for All Out. I'm a guy who's like never really done any big traveling trips like that, especially like not with family. So that was a big step out of my comfort zone for me. But man, like, and I know I was probably like the worst travel buddy because like I was so quiet just because I was like taking everything in, just like all the time. But man, like, yeah, thank you so much. But two, like, we definitely got to do that again at some point.
Honestly, you were almost the best part of the trip because I'd rarely take people with me when I go on these things. Like, I've been to 5 WrestleManias, and 4 out of the 5 was on my own.
Right.
So the 5th one, me, Jackie, and Lindsay went. And that was the first time I've ever taken anybody with me on a vacation. And we drove, and that's 32 hours.
Right. The same
there and then back. So driving to Chicago was a breeze, man.
I'll do more driving next time, that's for sure.
Well, that's another thing. Like, if you live in Canada, the rarity that we see like 5-lane traffic or 4-lane traffic is rare. And that's all of the city. Like the leading into Chicago, every time we went into the city, because we were staying in like, what was it, Melrose or something?
Yeah, that rings a bell.
So it was a little bit out of the actual inner city, but going into the inner city was like full bore, 130 clicks. Like,
right.
And I was like, this is nuts. People are crazy. But honestly, when we got there, it was such a relief. And we got to sit down and relax. And you're like, let's go to GCW. And I was like, I'm so down for this. And this is where you found my, like, what is it? My guilty pleasure.
Yes. That's a great word for it. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, oh man, you dig this hardcore stuff? I was like, dude, garbage wrestling is my favorite. I was like, I would do it but only at a
you got
limit.
paid enough.
Yeah, even if I got paid just enough, like a couple more bucks. But like some of the stuff is scary, like glass and light tubes. Like we seen a guy almost die that night,
Yeah,
like 3 in the morning.
man.
Yeah,
Sliced
who
up
was
his
it again?
tendons in his arm and stuff. That was ridiculous.
Who was that again?
It's crazy too, because like I wasn't so on the pulse with the indie scene at the time, but the fact that like man, what Toros, is that his name, that just signed with Impact now?
Yeah, he totally was there.
Yeah, he was in a 6-man, and then man, Warhorse, but like he wasn't even Warhorse yet at that time. Man, like, and of course, like Orange Cassidy, Janelle was there, and it was just like a stacked show. Ethan, the guy there, I remember saying hi to him like very briefly going by, but like it was a cool like deep dive. It was had like Effie, was there using the main event too. Like it was a nice jump in to like figure out what the indie scene looks like, because like I've never been into the indie scene. It's not something I've really done a deep dive into, but yeah, like taking a look at what their wrestling looks like versus ours, and it's like, man, like I know me and you and a couple other guys that I work with regularly can hang with all of these guys. It's just a matter of getting our names out there to get that far.
Yeah, man, those guys go hard. Like they're out there to make a name for them because they know GCW is almost like just that little stepping stone to get to maybe like Impact or something, or like even AEW. Like how many guys from GCW have been on AEW recently? Yeah,
no, there's definitely been a few.
Tons. And yeah, they went hard. The show started like 1 in the morning.
It definitely went late, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 1 till like, or 12 till like 3:30, and I was like, holy man, what am I doing awake after driving 16 hours to Chicago?
Right.
But then I realized how good it was, and I was like, oh, this is such a good show. And it had almost everything, because you had Orange Cassidy versus Gangrel, and that was amazing. Like, who would ever think that would get booked?
Right.
And then you got to see the Ultraviolence. That crazy ladder match was, I don't even know what to say, because there was so much in it. And it was so dangerous. It was the table, ladders, and doors match, right? Or doors, ladders, and chairs, or whatever they call it.
Something, yeah. And there was a whole plenty of other things as well.
And they had to grab the White Claw out of the fan.
Right, that's what it was.
I honestly don't even remember who won that match. I just remember you found out that it was a mark for Nick Gage, and I was like, oh, it's out now.
Who isn't, though? Man, like that guy, it's crazy that he has the buzz that he has, but it's awesome. It just goes to show like how diverse the wrestling crowd is nowadays.
Oh, definitely. Like when you think of people like in wrestling history, you think about like who really lives their gimmick. I don't think he has a gimmick. Like he literally shouts out his like cell numbers or his like block number from jail.
Right.
And it's like MDK, like, yeah, man, the guy robbed a bank. The guy is hardcore. Like even before the bank thing, he was hardcore.
Yeah.
And he was having matches with like Samoa Joe and Chris Hero and like Claudio and all those guys in CZW. So he definitely has the work. And a lot of people don't see that because GCW is such based off of hardcore garbage wrestling.
Yeah.
And he's obviously the king of it, but he's proud of it. And I'm like, I'd be proud of it too. You're killing it out there.
One thing I think people will be able to tell from this conversation, and I think it's why like we bond so well, is that we're still like such big fans of professional wrestling at the same time while doing it.
Everybody gets into this business for a reason. Unless you were like scouted as like a football player or like a fitness model or something, there's passion in it, and everyone's a mark.
Yeah.
Some people are even marks for themselves. Like, if you don't have the love and the passion for professional wrestling, you can see it in their work. You can see it how they carry themselves on a day-to-day basis. Like, it's a lifestyle. And that's something a lot of people can't commit to because it feels weird, or it feels like you're portraying something else in life. And it feels fake to a lot of people in a different way, not the sense of the actual wrestling's fake, but like you feel fake to yourself. So it's good to see people like stay committed and stay real and just be themselves. That's where the gimmicks where I'm Damien Demento and I wrestled The Undertaker on Raw and I was a huge star and I'm Damien Demento. like marking out for yourself. Like,
right.
You had your bit of fame, and it was great that you had it, but you didn't carry yourself obviously professional enough, and you just faded out. So
yeah, we could talk forever. We've got so many more stories. And man, I'm definitely gonna get you back on this at one point because there's so much more to dive into. Where's your head at right now? So it's been since May. Is there any itch to get like back in the ring?
well, there'd have to be a lot of changes. That's the one thing that keeps going through my mind. And like from the get-go, from the moment I started training, I wanted to be a serious wrestler. And after years of being the lower end cruiserweight looking guy, I put on some weight. I'm 215 pounds. Like I look like a decent heavyweight.
Yeah.
Or at least a junior heavyweight or whatever you want to call me. But my style hasn't reflected my size. I've done a couple spots where it's a big power move and people are like shocked that I can do it. But I used to go hard in the gym. Like I haven't seen the gym in a long time. So that's the first step into getting back to the ring.
Right.
But like I would just love to come back and just be a serious, like straight shooter, like competitive wrestler who wants the gold, because I've always wanted the gold. It's been my whole career has been based off of it. Really, I'm an animal for the gold.
Right. I don't want to tag a name on you, but like you're thinking like WCW Chris Benoit. I'm thinking like just go out there and tear it out, or like Dean Malenko, or
yeah, man. Like those are like when people talk about like what influenced you in wrestling, it was a lot of the technical wrestlers. Like when I was younger, obviously Shawn Michaels was as technical as it got in WWF.
Yeah.
But when you watch through WCWs, you've seen your Chris Jericho's, your Dean Malenko's, your Perry Saturn's, your Eddie Guerrero's. You've seen these amazing talents that just held it together. And the thing is, like, you can be technical, but you can be sloppy.
Yeah.
And there's a huge difference. There's people who pretend to be technical, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't fly. And not to say that I'm like a technical wrestler. That's just my influence, and just the hard-hitting, strong style of like big suplexes and making them mean something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Not just throwing stuff and seeing if it sticks. Not doing reverse ranas for no reason.
Right.
That's really started to numb the brains of wrestling fans. When we saw something big, like Dean Malenko's top rope knee or gut buster under the knee, that's a big spot.
That is.
Like, and like I said, through my time with like growing up and learning more about wrestling, I learned about Ring of Honor. I learned about Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness, and those guys were like my heroes. When I met Nigel after training and got to like go backstage in Ring of Honor and we had a good little talk, it meant the world to me. And just his words and his wisdom and just how to keep longevity in wrestling and keeping your body healthy was just really encouraging, and he really didn't have to go out of the way to do that.
Oh, yeah.
So to bring that style and bring those influences, and like I'm a huge Japanese wrestling fan.
Yeah.
So, and even taking stuff from the women's wrestling.
Yes.
Women do amazing stuff, and they're creative. And it must just be like their mindset of I can jump off the steel cage and do a leg drop.
I think it's them having to outdo the guys too. Like the guys get put on such a pedestal for their work rate that these girls have to do something extraordinary, turn up the characters, turn up the strong style, turn up the moves, and just try to get some buzz going about the girls too. Because man, yeah, they are killing it.
Yeah, and honestly, if you ever watch like All Japan Women's Wrestling and you see like Manami Toyota and like Aja Kong and Bull Nakano, and like it's just amazing how much went into their matches, like hour-long matches, and these are 5-star matches on the Dave Meltzer rated 5-star, but they're legitimate. If you sit there on YouTube and watch them, you're like, this holds up to today,
right?
And it doesn't feel like you know what's going to come next, and that's a big issue with today's product in general, is that we've seen it all.
Yeah,
almost everything. There's something like, if something does catch me off guard, I'm usually really shocked and really happy. Whether it was good or bad, it doesn't matter. It just shocked me, and I was like, whoa, it hold my attention. So like I'd love to bring like unexpected offense, real ground wrestling, like grappling on the mat, and just making things mean more if I do come back.
I like that, man. Yeah. Definitely the creative side. Like they're just the gears are turning in your head. You could tell. Like you've got all these.
I know,
but little pipe dreams. I'm the same way. I think that's
as well. You know as well as I do that it goes. Your dreams only go as far as the man directing and producing. Whoever you're working for, they have to completely believe in you, and they have to trust you that you're going to get this over.
Yeah.
But if you fully commit to yourself and you lay out the game plan, it has a good chance of succeeding. And obviously, that's what some of the greatest wrestlers of all time have done. I want to be the sexy boy. And you don't look that sexy, but and you can't dance or sing, so go on out there with chaps and earrings. And it flew. It took off. That was obviously a mindset that they thought this is going to blow up. I don't know what even is the next big thing in wrestling. There's been so many characters.
Yeah, there's so many subcultures now. I think it's hard to like find one that's going to break through everything. I mean, even as a guy like Orange Cassidy, who so many circles love buzzing about, there are still enough people saying, like that's not for me. So the closest thing I can think of is Kofi Kingston's WrestleMania run. I think that just identified with so many different people because of the way they approached it, the way they kept, they didn't narrow that story down. They kept it open so anybody could interpret it the way they wanted to. And that's why so many people connected with that kind of stuff emotionally. But it is really hard to find that one character that's going to grab long-term and be able to, build a company around or anything like that. So yeah, I really don't know what the answer is.
Maybe we'll find out in the future.
Yeah. We'll keep plugging at it. Hopefully it's us.
I'm going to have to come up with something pretty creative besides Abel.
Right. Man, we haven't seen each other since February at the Raw taping in Winnipeg.
That's over a year.
I know. It's I miss you. I miss wrestling. It's been awesome catching up with you. And we're definitely going to do a lot more of this. I think things are hopefully opening up, and maybe we'll get together. Maybe we'll plan something and maybe get some of the boys together. But man, I hope that you come back to wrestling because you're one of the best. You're so creative. You have such solid matches. You get the look. It's so much fun, more fun with you in the locker room even. And there's so many different things, like still as far as a storytelling perspective, I want to do with you. So when you come back, if you're not sick of working an hour or so in the ring with me, I'm definitely up for some more.
Well, let's just not forget who stole my big moment. Let's not forget.
I've talked so much about that too. I love the idea of this. I've been pushing it for years. The curse of the Canadian Championship. Just this like desire by the boys to like want to be that workhorse champion, that they are willing to destroy every single relationship, like friendship in the locker room to get there. And it just changes you. So like even me, when I won the belt, I did this big heel turn and just did all this wacky stuff. And then like me and you doing the whole babyface heel. We were partners that one time, and you're trying to be the heel and I'm trying to show you that the babyface way is the right way.
Oh yeah.
And then
I almost forgot about that.
Right. And then we come back later and we're crossing paths over the heavyweight title and we're trying to work together, but it's just not working. And then I finally show you like everything you did, every heel thing you did cost you everything in the end. You lost your friends. You lost the heavyweight title because somebody else was chasing you for the Canadian title. And then it drove you to that chain match, and I came in and swooped in and stole the Canadian title from you. There's so much we can play off of and have a lot of fun with down the line.
Sounds like a return is imminent eventually.
Yeah, I would love to. I think it'd be fun, and especially to capture like some of our stuff on the video like that I'm doing lately. I think would be amazing just to get more of that stuff because you're one of the guys I think in our locker room that deserves to be on a bigger platform and start getting bookings elsewhere because you have all the talent in the world to make it. It's just a matter of breaking that Winnipeg bubble.
The bubble is hard to break, to be honest. And a lot of people don't know about Canadian wrestling. It's so small. But yeah, thank you for all the kind words.
No.
You're such a sweetheart. And honestly, you're doing amazing. You make me look good
in the ring. So.
Yeah, you're doing amazing with everything, and I'm like proud of you, of everything you've done. And thank you for having me on the show.
No, we'll do it again. I am gonna put you over until you finally quit the business for the 5th time.
Yeah.
I get it. We should talk. You know what? Next time we'll talk about that, like the struggles and the what do you call that? The kind of the mental stuff behind the scenes and how it affects. We'll do that next time, but we'll talk about fun stuff too. I promise. All right.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, man. We'll talk again real soon. Good to see you.
Appreciate it. Take care, Jay.